Hello, everybody. Welcome back to a brand new episode of our weekly NR2003 NASCAR Cup Series season here on the channel, coming at you from Las Vegas Motor Speedway for the first mile-and-a-half race of the season with this next-gen car for 134 laps around this mile-and-a-half D-shaped oval. Here I am joined, as usual, by Jake Cook up here in the booth. As you hear the command to start the engines, we are ready to go green here momentarily with Chase Elliott and Ryan Blaney making up the front row there. Now, Jay, very excited for this first look at some mile-and-a-half racing here with this next-gen car, something that we haven't seen at all from NASCAR so far with this car is a mile-and-a-half racetrack. So this is going to be a good opportunity to really get a good baseline of where some of these teams might truly stack up, as we know mile-and-a-half is very prominent when it comes to being on the NASCAR Cup Series schedule.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to watch and see. Now, this is going to be, I think, our really first true time to see what these teams have. Obviously, last week at Auto Club was also a good time to see it as well. But these are the mile-and-a-halves now. You're with the mile-and-a-half package. You got your mile-and-a-half setup, and this is your really first true time to show what you got. And last week you saw a whole bunch of Chevys up towards the front in that race. Obviously, Ford still wound up getting the win, but a lot of Chevys are up towards the front the majority of the race. Kind of the same thing here in this qualifying here so far for Vegas. We got a whole lot of Chevys up there and a whole lot of Hendrick boys right up there. We got the top, we got three of the Hendrick boys right there in the top four. And then the teammate of Kyle Larson actually looks like he's a little bit further back in the field, which is a little bit surprising to me, but still a whole lot of Chevys up here to start this race.
Chase Elliott finds himself on pole. Speaking of the Chevrolets being fast, you see how many of them are up here now as the pace car pulls off. We are ready to go green for 134 laps of racing from Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Stage 1 concludes at the end of lap 45. Stage 2 at the end of lap 75 here. Now as Chase Elliott will lead the field to the green flag. Not a great start right off the bat from him. Pretty even with that 12 of Ryan Blaney for Penske Racing, who takes it down into turn 1. Pretty even there, but we see 3 wide between AJ Allmendinger, Alex Bowman, as well as William Byron, who's already getting shuffled out here now. I mean, Jay, the beginning of these races here, mile-and-a-half, and just about every track, it feels like in NR2003, unless it's a road course or a short track, is really a pack race at the beginning of these things, and you'll see it pan out just like Daytona Talladega. Byron right now is not in the line he wants to be in, and he's going to probably get shuffled quite a ways back here, at least a handful of positions in these opening few moments.
Yeah, on the initial starts of this race, all these drivers are finding out what kind of car they have in actual race trim instead of just qualifying trim. And also, as well, it's your best time to gain positions. So we're really going to see the shuffling happen, especially mid-pack and towards the back, which is exactly what we're seeing. Up towards the front, it's a lot of 2 wide. But in this middle of the group, or in this middle of the pack right here, there's a whole lot of 3 wide going on back here. Cars shuffling everywhere. And you really want to find yourself in the inside lane or the middle lane. If you get put in that outside lane, you're going to wind up losing a ton of positions and trying to find your way to the bottom. And so far, Kyle Busch has not been able to find his way to the bottom, and he's losing a lot of spots.
Chase Elliott leads lap 1 here from Las Vegas. Blaney now 3 wide on the outside. Bowman and Hamlin up the inside of him as they head down this back straightaway into turns 3 and 4. Now, as you continue to see them spread out 3 wide here as they come through the center of the corner. Larson side by side with Logano. There's a little bit of contact right there between the 5 and the 22, and I see a little bit of left side damage on that left front of that 22 car there. So that could be a bit of a performance impact. I don't think it's going to be too much for Logano there. That was very light contact. They just did a little bit of damage to that number 22 machine, but obviously, Jay, these guys right now not holding back, and I think now they're starting to realize maybe a little bit too chaotic, and they're starting to kind of dwindle into the 2x2 instead of the 3x3.
And at the same time that happened, there was a little bit of heavier contact between the 48 and the 11 right in front of those two. So some contact happening there together on the racetrack pretty much at simultaneous times. And Joey Logano, he sees that contact. He's still going to keep it aggressive, makes the move 3 wide to the bottom in turn 1 and 2 there, but doesn't make it work. Has to now kind of get settled back into the inside lane once again. And I mean, you're seeing, we're even 5 laps into this race, and they're still want to make 3 wide moves happen. Now Martin Truex Jr. takes Kyle Larson and Justin Haley 3 wide, and Logano once again 3 wide again. Little bit close there between the teammates of Logano and Ryan Blaney, and also Martin Truex Jr. and Kyle Larson. The 3 wide moves, they get really sketchy off turn 4.
And I mean, you got to be aggressive though, Jay. I mean, with this next-gen car, we saw it in California in NR2003. Once they started to get spread out and calm down, it was hard to pass. And I mean, I think we expect maybe something similar again here today. So this original start, where they're finally double file to start, they got to be on it because they know this is one of their best opportunities to pass. But Truex, though, he is not having a good time in these opening laps.
Yeah, like I mentioned, the three wide can be really sketchy off turn 4, and we just saw it once again there with Truex. And that time it was almost wrecked between him and I think William Byron, but they both able to keep it clean. And now now William Byron has a big run on the outside going down the back straightaway, following his teammate of Alex Bowman. Three wide for the lead now between Chase Elliott, AJ Allmendinger, and Kevin Harvick. Our winner last week, Kevin Harvick, still got a strong car once again. Chase Elliott put on that outside lane, and now he's going to wind up losing positions because of that. But still, three wide once again for the lead. Now AJ Allmendinger finds himself in that position, and Ryan Blaney is putting the fight here to Kevin Harvick.
Allmendinger leads. He is not a full-time driver in the Cup Series this season, so he wins this race. It means he, of course, gets the purse money. He gets a win to his stat in the stat book, but he doesn't get put in the playoffs, and he doesn't get any driver points for it. He is declared, of course, for the driver points in the Xfinity Series. Now, as you continue to see 3x3 action here, they calmed down for a few moments, but they got right back to it. Harvick now, last week's winner, to the inside of the 16, and to the lead he goes here. Now, I mean, Jay, look at this. How long can these guys continue like this? Of course, tire fall off has to be coming relatively soon with the 2X wear that we use, and they can't keep this up for very long.
Yeah, I didn't think we would still see them be three wide on lap 9 of this race, but here we are. They're still making those moves everywhere, and Denny Hamlin and Chase Elliott now put on the outside lane. And actually in the background we have a spinner, Austin Dillon. Kurt Busch to come back
up
in front.
and
Kurt
over.
Busch goes flipping. So does Austin Dillon and Christopher Bell. Big crashing early on in this race.
Keselowski's on top of cars. He lands on 4 wheels, and the 45 still tumbling. There he goes. He's finally done. Unbelievable. The 3's still getting hit by cars. We've seen that before when he's on his roof. And the 6 car as well of Keselowski smoking. He's going to be out of the show from Las Vegas. Austin Dillon's going to need some assistance, and I hope they get this thing cleared up because they are still coming at speed as they go down into turn 1. Logano. Oh, my Lord. Oh, my goodness. The 50 of Kaz Grala just about killed a whole bunch of drivers here today from Las Vegas Motor Speedway, but thank goodness they were able to avoid him, and he is now going to haul the mail once again. The caution comes out, and Jay, early on in this race, we have seen the big one strike.
I was just talking about them being still super aggressive with 3 wide. 10 laps into this race almost, and all of a sudden we look in the background and there is cars flipping everywhere. They're going wrecking, and a whole lot get involved in this incident, and that's going to wind up taking out several cars from this race. And obviously big moments there for Kurt Busch, for Austin Dillon, for Christopher Bell. I think I also saw Keselowski up on top of a couple of cars. So wild rides for a lot of drivers there, and just a massive incident to start this race.
And you see the rest of the leaders head into the pit lane, but while they deal with pit stops, let's get a look at this accident here now, and this is going to make it really close actually on a feel for the end of this stage if they stay green. But let's take a look at what just occurred here from Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Here's a look at what happened here towards the back of the pack. The 3 and the 23, they come together there. They slide down into the front end of the 45, and then of course they travel back up the track, and wow, Jay, leads to a massive accident.
Huge hit for Kurt Busch. Also a large hit for Austin Dillon, Christopher Bell. A lot of drivers involved in this. I mean, you can see Kurt Busch there just still tumbling down the racetrack, and then Cody Ware comes in here and hits Austin Dillon in a moment, and it essentially ends his own race there. Cody Ware does. He was fine. He had no damage, and then he wound up hitting Austin Dillon there, and a whole lot of drivers involved in this. Pretty much everybody on back from that wreck got involved and got a bunch of damage in it because nobody wanted to slow down. And for Brad Keselowski, that's not what you want to see in his third race with his brand new race team. And obviously for him, he's probably going to be DNF'd or severely down on power, and a whole lot of drivers going to be in the same situation as him.
Now getting ready to go back green from Las Vegas Motor Speedway. We're looking at about a 30-lap run to the end of the stage. Going to be close on fuel now, so we'll see unless we have another caution. That goes out the window here now as AJ Allmendinger ready to lead the field back to the green now, as we had a bunch of cars retire from the race due to that accident, including Cody Ware, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Chase Briscoe, the number 1 of Ross Chastain, the 3 of Austin Dillon, the 20 of Christopher Bell, who's had a really rough start to the season, the 45 of Kurt Busch, and the 6 of Brad Keselowski find themselves out. So Jay, we just saw a lot of big names right there actually out of this race with the 47 as well as the 14, the 1, the 3, the 20, 45, and 6, all really drivers we expect to see at least competing for some spots in the playoffs. And I mean, we know that one race can really at the end of this regular season for some of those drivers be the key difference in if they make the playoffs or not.
Yeah, so certainly an unfortunate race to have their races done already, just 16 laps into this thing, and luckily with that big crash that we just had right there, it looks like not really anyone except for the 50 of Casgralla is extremely off the pace, and he actually doesn't even look like he's still that bad off the pace compared to what he was. He hasn't even lost the pack in front of him just yet, so I think that Casgralla might still be okay. But certainly he's not going to be able to be competitive for the rest of this race because he's missing both bumpers.
Yeah, it was about 194 mile an hour for Kaz Gralla down the back straightaway. We'll get an idea of what he does into turn one next time around because the leaders had 207 going down into turns one, which I did not expect to see that kind of speed out of these leaders here in this next gen car. Is the 16 of Allmendinger in command right now. Alex Bowman up here towards the top five. Kyle Larson finds himself third in line on the inside. Logano as well, still up inside the top 10 here now, as you see Larson making that move as all of the Hendrick cars, Jay, even after all that chaos, all the Hendrick cars still find themselves up here in the mix, and they just continue to be very strong, even though maybe a little bit of drama recently here between some of their teammates.
The Chevys, more specifically the Hendrick cars, have been really strong so far this season, and right now we got Kyle Larson, last season's champion in real life, being the best of those four at the moment, and right now challenging Ryan Blaney for third place, and AJ Allmendinger still putting up a really good fight to Kevin Harvick there for the lead. And so we've seen AJ Allmendinger so far, even though he's not competing for points, he was strong last week, and he's got a really good run going so far. Been battling for the lead this entire race almost with Kevin Harvick, so really strong so far for those drivers there. And you can see Kaz Gralla, he's certainly off the pace a bit, but he's not going to be as severely off the pace as you and I thought, Gary.
It could play a bit of a role at some point in this race, but we'll have to wait and see and find out. It really just depends on what point in time that field is going to run down. That number 50 of Kaz Gralla for that Team Money Team car owned by Floyd Mayweather here. As you see the 16 continuing to be out front. I mean, Jay, if you're like a Kurt Busch or a Brad Keselowski, Christopher Bell, that's already out of this race, I mean, you're hoping that a guy like this right here, the 16 of AJ Allmendinger, wins, because if AJ wins, that's no playoff lock for him, so they wouldn't even have to worry about an extra car getting themselves into the playoffs.
Yeah, certainly that's best case scenario for any of those drivers who are already retired early on in this race. And for AJ Allmendinger, he's going to want to win this thing because he wants to prove that he still can be competitive in the Cup Series. He may not want to go full-time racing, but he certainly still wants to be competitive when he does run in this 16 Kaulig car this season. And so far, done a really good job in all three races, and right now leading some laps in this race, pulling away a little bit now from the field behind him with Ryan Blaney and Kevin Harvick being side by side behind him. But still, he got a whole lot of Hendrick cars up here that are strong so far. We've seen Harvick be strong, winning last week, obviously. So far, you know, AJ Allmendinger, even though he's leading this race, he's got some very, very stout competition behind him, and he's not going to be able to pull away from these guys.
There you see Chase Elliott in that number 9 Napa Auto Parts Chevrolet here at the back part of the top 10, exactly 10th place right now, holding on to that final playoff, or stage point, sorry, over Kyle Busch. And Jay, we've talked about the bad luck for Kyle Busch. We talked about the bad luck for Martin Truex Jr., Christopher Bell. Well, Christopher Bell was already out of this race, and he wasn't even a contender for the playoffs last season. But Kyle Busch, Truex, they had, of course, horrendous luck, and especially Kyle Busch, and both of them have had rough starts to this season here in NR2003 as well. Kyle Busch and Truex both found themselves in accidents that have taken them out of contention for the race wins here now. So, I mean, right there, obviously, they finally got maybe a bit of a moment of luck on their side. They weren't involved in that accident, but there's still over 100 laps to go. These two definitely really might even have to consider just playing it a little bit safe here and making sure they at least get to the end of this race.
I think both of them maybe not being that worried about their start so far because we've been to a super speedway and then to a 2-mile track, both tracks that we don't go to very often. This 1.5 mile track here at Las Vegas, this is what you really want to find some speed at and find yourself being competitive at, because this is the majority of what we run on. So for Kyle Busch and Martin Truex Jr. so far, they're having pretty good runs around the top 10 right now. They just need to find themselves, I think, a little bit further up towards the top 5. And right now, they need a little bit of adjustments perhaps to make that happen. And so far in stage 1, they're running still competitively, but they need to find themselves up more towards the front, I think, for both of those drivers, because they want to be competitive and leading and winning races. Speaking
of adjustments, do you think there's any concern in that 48 camp? We talked about it before. Alex Bowman last season, he really struggled for pace, never had the pace to make the playoffs. This season, on the other hand, he's been very, very strong so far in NR 2003. But I remember a common trend last year, Jay, was anytime Bowman did show speed, it would come down to that first pit stop. Drivers would get their adjustments in the car, and each and every single time, we would see that 48 start to fall down the order. Do you think there may be a little bit concerned in that Hendrick camp for that 48 car here for that first pit stop?
They possibly could be, but I don't think they have to. They have to put that out of their minds and not think about that at all, and have to consider the fact that all four of their cars right now have looked really strong so far early on in this early portion of the season. So they have to take solace in that, and then they also have to tell themselves that they can be competitive too. They have to, and they have to this season. They cannot have another year like last year, where Bowman was pretty much terrible week in and week out, not running competitive at all, never even really had a chance of making the playoffs. So for Alex Bowman right now, I think for him competing with his teammates and leading his teammates right now, actually fighting with Kyle Larson for the last several laps, but still keeping that position on him, I think that's a good momentum booster for him, and certainly a good confidence booster as well.
Worth noting that the 50 car Kazgrala is out of the race here with a suspension issue now, so Kazgrala no longer a factor. We were a little bit concerned about him with the pace in that car. No front bumper, no rear bumper. Well, he is now out of this race. Austin Cindric scrapping it out side by side with the 43 of Eric Jones. These guys find themselves here in the mid-teens right now, 15th, 16th on back with Daniel Suarez there in that number 99 in that 17th position here. And now, Jay, as we see Austin Cindric running quite considerably worse than his Penske Racing teammates here so far this season on the NR side of things, but not too much. I mean, still a top 15 run for the rookie. Pretty good, but obviously a bit of a learning curve from him coming up from the Xfinity Series now into the Cup Series. We expect it to take a little bit of time for him to really get to that point where he's able to compete with his teammates on a regular basis.
And I think we saw as well him get involved in that wreck a little bit, I believe. So perhaps a little bit of damage to that car, hampering the performance a little bit of it. Not too sure, because it looks okay, but maybe there is some damage there that we don't know about that is affecting the performance of that car so far. And for Austin Cindric, obviously being a rookie, you don't expect the greatest things out of him right away, right? He's still in real life. He's doing much better than we all expected him to be, but he doesn't have to perform and win all these races right away. He does get the ability to get some time in that car and before we really start judging his performance. And so far in NR, it's been a little bit lackluster compared to what he's been in real life, but Austin Cindric, I think, is going to have this thing turned up by the end of the season, both in real life and in NR, and be a strong competitor.
Things have calmed down here from Las Vegas Motor Speedway, so what we are going to do is go for a quick break here from Las Vegas. We'll bring you to the end of this first and opening stage. We'll be right back here from the 1.5 miles here in Las Vegas, Nevada. Back from Las Vegas Motor Speedway, coming to the final 3 laps already of this first and opening stage. You see things have calmed down even more than when we previously went back to break, as Kevin Harvick finds himself leading here as they exit turn 4, coming to these final couple of laps now. Jay, I mean, Kevin Harvick right now firing on all cylinders, wins in Auto Club back-to-back seasons, comes into Las Vegas here today, and right now in position to win Stage 1. Can you get any hotter right now than that number 4 car?
Yeah, Kevin Harvick doing a great job so far, and this has got the same thing last year as well, right? He won the first 2 races, was leading at Vegas, and had an issue. Well, this time around, he's leading at Vegas and not having an issue so far. And we're coming around to the end of Stage 1 here. He's led a majority of these laps, got AJ Allmendinger still hot on his tail, though, and Ryan Blaney, and Alex Bowman, and Joey Logano. So certainly has not pulled away from anybody behind him, but obviously not being challenged too hard right now for the lead, and Kevin Harvick doing a great job once again of dominating a race.
Coming to the final lap of Stage 1 once they cross the line this time by now, as it's all single file right now down this back straightaway. I mean, Jay, you're the 16, you're right there in that draft. You know he's got something for that 4. Do you even try to make a move here? Or do you maybe just ride it out and get to the end of this first stage and focus on Stage 2 and getting into the pit lane, of course, and being able to make some adjustments to your car?
Well, for Allmendinger, he's here to win. He's not here to get stage points. So I think he's going to try and just save the car, not put it in any position where he winds up potentially in a wreck. So I think for Allmendinger, he's not really going to challenge too hard here. And Ryan Blaney, I think that might be the one who challenges here to try and get AJ Allmendinger for that second place.
And through 3 and 4 for the final time here in Stage 1. Kevin Harvick is going to be cruising on the exit of turn 4. He will go from winning Auto Club to winning Stage 1 here now from Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Kyle Larson, Tyler Reddick side by side at the line. Larson ends up P8, Elliott 9th, and rounding out the top 10, you got that number 19 of Martin Truex Jr., Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin. Both find themselves out of stage points paying positions here. Jay is kind of like real life. We're seeing the Toyotas kind of notably struggle a little bit, it seems like that right there in Stage 1. Only one Toyota inside the top 10.
Yeah, a lot of Chevys inside the top 10 once again. A couple Fords, and obviously, like you mentioned, the one Toyota as well. So they're struggling so far early on in this season, but I think we'll see them get it turned around once again. I mean, we got four strong drivers at Joe Gibbs, and then you also got 23XI with Bubba Wallace and Kurt Busch, two strong drivers there as well. So Toyota, I think we'll see them get it turned around. But so far, the Chevys, aside from Kevin Harvick, the Chevys look like they're going to dominate absolutely everything so far early on in this season.
So they head down into the pit boxes right now. Blaney there in third place. That will be the next driver that actually gets points here now. But the 16, of course, does get owner points for that second place finish. But that is it now as they head down to take 4 tires, fill it up with fuel. And I mean, Jay as well, most importantly here, there's some drivers that as well can spend a little bit more time here on the pit lane and get some much needed repairs that were involved in that earlier accident. I think the 23, Bubba Wallace, might be looking for a few more repairs. And as well, a little bit of these drivers down here towards the back.
Yeah, we kind of saw a second and third group form there at Las Vegas in stage one there. So I think that, this time around we may get to see some drivers get some damage repair again, and maybe not have those second and third groups form, and we'll see them maybe able to stick with the leaders a little bit this time around. And it's gonna be interesting to watch also as well how in stage two here how the drivers navigate. Looks like Alex Bowman actually did he lose a good bit of spots on pit road.
Both him and Hamlin.
Yeah, it looks like they both lost a good bit of spots on pit road, so maybe some slow stops or maybe fixing damage for both of those drivers. But as I was saying, in stage two, it's going to be interesting to watch how they navigate early on. Are they going to go 3 wide again and be super aggressive like they were early on in stage one? Or are they going to be perhaps more calm this time around and just try and log some more laps and make passes where you see them and not be driving kind of desperate?
Well, we're going to find out momentarily. We will be right back here. We're going to go for a break, and we'll be back for the start of stage 2, which comes to a conclusion at the end of lap 75. We'll be back here from Las Vegas Motor Speedway's Kevin Harvick continues to lead. Back from Las Vegas Motor Speedway, ready to go green for the start of stage 2, which comes to a conclusion at the end of lap 75. So only about 26 laps of racing here in stage 2. You got to get those belts tight and just scrap it out for a 26 lap sprint here. No pit stops necessary. So Jay, these guys don't really have to worry about fuel and whatnot for stage 2. They don't have to worry about it again until stage 3. So what's the mindset, would you think, here? Now, you guys going to be going as hard as you can here to maybe get this stage win and as well get into that top 10? Or do you still maybe be a little bit reluctant there, just making sure you can get into stage 3, especially we already saw one big accident? I wouldn't rule out a second one.
I think you have to consider being a little bit more calm this time around in stage 2, because we saw it happen there in stage 1. One incident created a giant wreck and wound up DNFing a whole lot of good drivers out of this race. So I think that we'll see them be a little bit more calm this time around. But so far on the restart, I mean, you're seeing the moves happen once again. 2 wide so far, not any 3 wide. Actually, never mind. There they go.
Oh my God!
Save it again, but Kevin Harvick, our leader and dominant driver of stage 1, involved in an incident there, gets some damage on the car, saves it obviously, but loses a bunch of track position. So for Kevin Harvick, he's gonna have to try and regroup it and also see if that damage is too much to affect that car there to not allow him to lead anymore.
You saw Larson as well. He got a piece of it, and the 22 of Joey Logano. My goodness, what a moment that was, and somehow they all kept it going in the right direction. So, we've lost some cars since stage 1 from a big accident, but they are proving they are still going to have their moments here now. And going 3 wide, I mean, it's dangerous, Jay. They've proven that every time, and especially out of turn 4, it just seems like they have a problem kind of merging together, and it looks like Harvick now definitely starting to struggle here in that number 4.
Yeah, certainly. He did get some definite damage to that car, and he's been put in the outside lane now, which is already going to make you slow and put him in a position where he's going to lose positions, and there he goes. He loses some spots. Now it gets it gathered back up now into the middle lane. But for Kevin Harvick, he was leading the majority of the race there in stage 1. He hasn't been back here in traffic, and now he's way back down in traffic in that dirty air. He's really finding out how his car is handling for the first time here, and combined with that damage as well, I think this is a really not good situation for Kevin Harvick, but he's experienced enough to where if that car is not too damaged for him to run, he'll be able to get it figured out, and he'll get that team to make the right adjustments, and he'll be right back up here towards the front again.
Ryan Blaney, after all of that mess, finds himself leading the way over the 16 of AJ Allmendinger. Then you got Chase Elliott there in P3 in front of his Hendrick teammate of Kyle Larson. They had, of course, some drama last week in both real life as well as NR2003. In NR2003, we saw Kyle Larson turn Chase Elliott head on into the outside wall as they came out of the pit lane side by side under a green flag pit stop cycle here. And now, as we continue to see them side by side, Kyle Larson 7 Kyle Busch, and then just behind you got William Byron in the 8 of Tyler Reddick here. Now a little bit further down, you see Harvick now kind of stabilized there on the outside, just shy of a top 10 position. Hamlin in the mix as well, and there you got Daniel Suarez, and it looks like, Jay, definitely, we talked about maybe some drivers looking for repairs. It's definitely seeming like some have gotten that. The 23 and the 99, most notably, they're now able to stick up here with this main pack, which we did not see them, and the 2 car. We didn't see any of them do that after that first accident.
Yeah, like I mentioned, there was a second and third group that formed, and this time around, there's really only a second group that's there. We've seen a lot of these drivers able to now stick with the lead pack. I mean, like I mentioned, Bubba Wallace, Eric Jones, Daniel Suarez, some others that we didn't see them stick with, and actually Greg Biffle too. Greg Biffle is up here at the back of this lead group, but he's still here. So obviously there's some speed there in that car that we have not, or that we did not expect to see. But yeah, he's doing a great job so far. Is Greg Biffle and Austin Cindric there now with the lead group as well. There's a lot of more drivers in this group that are able to try and make something happen, and a much bigger pack this time around.
Chase Elliott has run down the top 2 drivers. You see there on the leaderboard, the fastest lap of the race is a 26.862, run by the number 48 of Alex Bowman. Kyle Larson has gotten away from the pack and clear, and now, I mean, I think I'm noticing a bit of a trend here. Jay, is once they're able to kind of get separated from that pack and kind of single file it out, they're able to actually relatively easily run down these front runners. So, I mean, right now it looks like the side-by-side action, not something you necessarily want to be a part of here today at Las Vegas.
Yeah, single file is always faster, and it's certainly going to be faster at a track like Las Vegas. So that's why you're seeing when you get single file, you're able to kind of pull away a bit from the group who is too wide at the moment. And right now, Kevin Harvick still kind of struggling with that, still too wide now with Alex Bowman, not really been able to settle in since that contact, and now he's going to be able to potentially get single file. But for Kevin Harvick, still trying to figure things out, I bet, and trying to figure out where that car stands at the moment.
So, things have calmed down here again from stage 2. We're going to take one really quick break here now on lap 59, coming to lap 60. Stage ends at the end of lap 75. We'll be back here in a few laps' time to bring you to the end of stage 2 from Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Back from Las Vegas Motor Speedway here now as Ryan Blaney continues to lead. Less than 10 laps to go. He's going to look up the inside of that 66 there of Timmy Hill as they dive down into turn 1. Jay, I mean, different driver, but same manufacturer that we're seeing in command here, and it's a Ford, but this time Ryan Blaney instead of Kevin Harvick. But right now, I mean, not many Fords up in the mix, but they seem still to be a force to be reckoned with here in these closing laps of stage 2.
And we were talking about the Toyotas in the end of stage 1 there, not really looking that well. Well, here comes Kyle Busch right now running in 5th place, trying to battle Kyle Larson there for that 4th place spot, and doing a really good job so far. We've also talked about Kyle Busch early on in this season needing to have a rebound, and didn't have that so far. Was kind of struggling once again like he was last year, but so far in Las Vegas showing the speed, hasn't had the bad luck we've seen him have before, and right now going to use Timmy Hill as a little bit of a pick, get past Kyle Larson, move into that 4th place position, and now he's going to go try and run down Chase Elliott, AJ Allmendinger, and Ryan Blaney.
Now, Jay, if we've learned anything about Kyle Busch here through this NR series, is he might be running 5th right now, but I'm sure something has to go wrong before that race is over for that 18 car.
I was kind of surprised it didn't happen right there. I was expecting the moment that I started talking good about him that he was going to wind up finding something to happen to him and wind up wrecking, but obviously didn't happen in that moment, but still lots of time to go and lots of chances for us to talk about him once again and then have something happen to him immediately, because if there's anybody that we have cursed the most in this series, it is Kyle Busch.
Kyle Larson has fallen outside of the top 10, being stuck behind that 66. He's finally going to get down to the inside here. Hamlin's going to have to deal with him next. Kevin Harvick outside of the top 10 as well. I'm sure him, Joey Logano as well, potentially, and Kyle Larson. Those three were the drivers that all got a piece of that contact earlier in this second stage. I'm sure they are all looking forward to getting into the pit lane here in a few laps' time to fix any potential damage they might have on their cars here as Blaney leads the way, coming to 3 laps to go. Chase Elliott looking a little faster, putting some pressure on the back of that 16 car. Jay, not the season start as well that Chase Elliott's looking for in that 9 car. There's a lot of big names so far this season that have not had the starts that they would have imagined, and obviously we saw him get wrecked out in Auto Club up and over, took his teammate William Byron with them, and right now both of them at least find themselves in the top 5, but still, I mean, they're going to need some consistency here to get themselves back up there in that points mix.
Yeah, and the good thing for them is they're showing speed here at the 1.5 miles, which is where you want to show speed, which is where you want to be competitive and have a good car. So I think this is really the first time again where the drivers are all going to really care about their performance and notice where they're at and going to stack up for the early portion of this season. Obviously, we still got a lot of time to go with the season, and a lot of time for each and every one of these teams to make adjustments to the car and find new nuances with it that they can get around and all that kind of stuff. So at least early on, we're seeing kind of what everybody has, but certainly I think this is going to look a lot different when we get towards the end of the season, and perhaps we will see some changes being made with who is competitive and who isn't. But as we start this final lap, I mean, Ryan Blaney's done a great job of grabbing this lead once there was the contact with Kevin Harvick, and really has not given it away. And AJ Allmendinger, Chase Elliott have stuck right with him though.
Through 3 and 4, it looks like Ryan Blaney cruising to the stage victory. Byron up the track there. This is the battle for 5th, 6th, and 7th as they exit turn 4. Blaney wins stage 2, and Byron will hold on to 5th place over Joey Logano and Tyler Reddick at the line. Kyle Larson gets up into 9th place. Bowman drops down to 10th place, but all Hendrick Motorsports cars inside of the top 10 here. Now, Bubba Wallace comes up just short of a stage point. Now in our NR2003 series, Bubba Wallace picked up 1 win last season at the Coca-Cola 600. Another driver this season who so far hasn't been looking very hot now as we round out this second stage here from Las Vegas. I mean, Jay, a lot calmer. We didn't have the big accident, but we still had some really good racing, and obviously we had one dramatic moment there between the 5 and the 4 and the 22 as well. They got to be looking at maybe getting some repairs here, but even then, looking still really competitive are their cars, but I'm sure that there's at least some form of damage done to each machine there.
Yeah, and Kevin Harvick goes from dominating stage 1 to now finishing 12th in stage 2, and obviously he's going to get a chance to come in this time and get some changes made to that car for how it felt in the dirty air, and also perhaps get some damage repair if he needs it done to that vehicle. And the same thing for Joey Logano and Kyle Larson. So perhaps some longer stops coming for a couple of our guys inside and around the top 10. But for Ryan Blaney, did a great job of winning that stage, and now he's going to need a good pit stop here, get back out into the lead once again, and have to fend off for another restart.
And there you see everybody getting service to their vehicles. Who is going to win the race out of the pit lane? Kyle Busch, he's already rolling, but that 12 is going to roll first, and the 16 before him. And Elliott taking a little bit longer there. He's going to lose a couple of positions, or just one spot, as you see the rest of the field head out. And Logano and Larson and Harvick, it looks like they didn't spend too much time there in the pit
Harvick
lane
actually
now.
gained some positions.
Yeah, he did. But look there, the 19. He's a big loser here now. He's quite a ways down
And
the order.
Hamlin.
And yeah, Hamlin again, just like the first time around. So not what they're looking for here as we head towards this third and final stage, but we know there could be quite a bit of chaos on the way, at least on this restart. But we're going to go for a quick break here at the conclusion of stage 2, and we'll be back to bring it to the end here from Las Vegas Motor Speedway for the start of this third and final stage. Back from Las Vegas Motor Speedway, ready to go green for the start of this third and final stage here. One pit stop necessary under green flag conditions or under caution, whatever it might be here now, depending on how wild these drivers could potentially get here. Now, Jay, we've been able to see everything on display here through this race so far, these 2 stages. We've seen a lot of things shuffle around and whatnot as Ryan Blaney will lead the field back to the green flag. But is there any driver in particular that might stand out most to you, or do you think maybe right now that favorite is the guy in the lead with the clean air?
I think Kyle Busch is certainly a driver we can look at to go at and make a challenge of both AJ Allmendinger and Ryan Blaney. We've seen him make a big comeback there in stage 2, was outside of the top 10 to start stage 2 and wound up getting 4th, and now he's immediately making a run at the lead here, taking it 3 wide for the lead. Kyle Busch on the inside, making really good progress through 3 and 4 on the bottom side. Ryan Blaney going to lose that lead. Actually, some contact with Allmendinger, almost something there, but actually they save it. They don't get sideways at all, and Kyle Busch goes and takes the lead here in Las Vegas, his hometown track. Kyle Busch once again in the lead at Las Vegas.
Is the bad luck finally over for Kyle Busch? He was plagued all last season with it and the first 2 races of this season, but has it finally come to an end? There's a long way to go to find out here as they exit turn 4. Kyle Busch leads Kyle Larson. Bowman made a little bit of contact in the background there with that number 4 of Kevin Harvick, your 2014 NASCAR Cup Series champion here as they head down into turn 1. Kyle Larson side by side with that 23 of Bubba Wallace still finds himself in that 11th position, trying to fend off that number 43 of Eric Jones. That RPM Chevrolet Camaro of Eric Jones looking a little bit speedy today here now as he's starting to move his way towards the top 10.
Yeah, in a fight with Bubba Wallace right now, who also has gotten himself looking a whole lot better. And right behind them is Martin Truex Jr., a guy who we were talking about early on in this race, needs to have a better start to this season than he did last year. And so far in Vegas, it's not a bad start, or it's not a bad race for him so far, but it's certainly not the result that he was looking or that he's looking for right now. He's outside the top 10, towards the top 15 of this race. He wants to be inside the top 10 and certainly contending for a top 5, if not a win. So for Martin Truex Jr., still struggling a little bit, but not having the bad luck right now at the moment. And Ryan Blaney, he goes from leading this race and now top of 3
Oh,
again.
to
Actually gonna
crashing.
get wrecked, and so does Reddick. And here goes
Larson.
Kyle Larson involved. Big crash again at Vegas.
Blaney, the 48 at Bowman, his bad luck is returned, and oh, Blaney gets nailed in the background by BJ McLeod, the 31, smoke pouring out of the back of Haley, the rookie in the Cup Series now, as actually I don't believe he's classified as a rookie, my mistake there, but Daniel Suarez, another accident, he has been able to slip through. That's going to be big here, as, wow, I mean, Jay, so far we're noticing a trend is, I don't know if you want to win any of these stages here today, because it seems like you're just destined to get wiped out here momentarily after.
Yeah, and for Ryan Blaney, I mean, he's been put on the outside a couple of times to start this stage, and obviously had it happen right there and didn't survive it that time around. And another big crash this time around as well. It wasn't as large as our first one, but there was still some heavy hitters involved in that wreck, and a lot of cars with some damage. And Ryan Blaney, I think he was the one that got nailed by BJ McLeod there at the end as well. Kyle Larson, you see some pretty heavy damage to his car. Same thing for Justin Haley. Tyler Reddick, who was competitive last week and early on in this race with some damage. Alex Bowman, we were just talking about earlier. He needed to have good races again and not suffer like he did last year. Well, this time around, he's having a good race, but now he's involved in a crash.
Kyle Larson brings it in here into the pit lane with some damage on that number. Oh, he's out. Kyle Larson is going to retire there. Didn't even look that bad, but nope, he is going to call it. The 31 as well out of the race. So Kyle Larson there, first 3 races of the season, he's going on for a bit of a winless streak in Kyle Larson's terms there. Tyler Reddick was servicing that machine. You can tell right off the bat, Ryan Blaney, the stage 2 winner, that is going to be the end of the day. Yes, it is. The 12 finds himself out, and now the top 10 is Kyle Busch. There you see him, and I mean, wow, I mean, Jay, we're losing numbers as we continue in this race, but I mean, now, I mean, let's actually go and take a look at what just caused this accident here, as it all stemmed from the 22 up there in the mix of 48 and whatnot. Alex Bowman, another driver out of this race. Hendrick Motorsports, just like last week, just like that, loses half of their team in one accident. Let's go take a look. Here's the view of what happened here to cause the caution. Logano's going to get into the left rear of his teammate Ryan Blaney, turn him into the 8 who goes around the 48 involved as well. The 8 involved in the 5 of Kyle Larson. I mean, Jay, just a lot of drivers right there who really had nowhere to go.
And Kyle Larson, he was just trying to slow down and avoid the wreck and just wound up either getting tagged or getting loose and gets involved in it, and it creates another incident again on the bottom side of the track and gets a lot more drivers involved than what we should have had. And obviously, really unfortunate for Ryan Blaney, who won stage 2, and as you mentioned, our stage winners so far have had struggling races. Kevin Harvick once again involved in that crash too, but somehow able to escape with minimal damage to that car. A lot of drivers again involved in it, and a lot of heavy hitters taken out in that race, and now are taken out of that wreck and now taken out of the race.
So getting ready to go green this time by here from Las Vegas. Kyle Busch out in front here now is so far, Jay. I mean, knock on wood for Kyle Busch, but the luck seems to be on his side today so far. I mean, seeing everything that's been happening, but we get another restart, and we know these restarts have meant chaos all day long. Every restart that we've had today, there's at least been some moment of drama, some contact, and of course, a few of them have led to some accidents.
And early on in that stage, it looked like Kyle Busch had a really good car, but now he's got to survive another restart this time around, and Chase Elliott is going to jump to the inside of AJ Allmendinger and make a move to the inside there to take second place. And for Kyle Busch, he got a pretty good restart right there, but he's going to have to survive everybody being behind him once again, and now right here with him.
And there you see Eric Jones. Shout out to Eric Jones in that number 43. He's into the top 10, going for the top 5. Bubba Wallace as well in the top 10, and Daniel Suarez, as we continue to see some of these top drivers get wiped out in this race. And that includes drivers like the number 45 of Kurt Busch, the 20 of Christopher Bell, Ross Chastain, Brad Keselowski, Kyle Larson, Alex Bowman, and now Ryan Blaney as well. So, I mean, Jay, this race has turned into a huge opportunity for some of these usual midfield teams like this 43, and as well as maybe even the 23 of Bubba Wallace. I mean, depending on, sometimes it's really hard to get a good guess of where that 2311 team is, but especially that 43 car, this is right now shaping up to be a really big day for this team in points.
Yeah, and Justin Haley as well, also DNFing. So that makes all 4 or 5 of the drivers that DNF'd in that last crash. They were all running inside the top 10, all really competitive, and a good majority of the ones who crashed out in the first wreck as well. all drivers who should be inside the top 10. So that leaves the door wide open for a lot of smaller teams to have better days here. And you're seeing Eric Jones right now and Bubba Wallace take advantage of that as well. Our champion from last season, Eric Almirola, inside the top 10 now. Denny Hamlin finally finding his way back inside the top 10. So a lot of drivers right now finding their way inside the top 10 and also finding their way just around it as well. Daniel Suarez actually dropping out of it by a little bit, but still having a really good run. He is in that 99 Trackhouse car.
And Eric Almirola, you mentioned him. Keep in mind his final season here in NASCAR Cup Series competition. And, of course, that means his final season in our NR2003 series. No replacement yet announced for that number 10 car for that Stewart-Haas Racing team. I mean, Jay, you got to imagine maybe Ryan Preece the favorite there, as he is now their reserve driver. Not very often you have one of those in the NASCAR Cup Series, but we do have one. But you would have to imagine with the Stewart-Haas plan and having him do some truck races and Xfinity races, and I think they said some cup starts as well if possible, you have to imagine that he might be their favorite right now to replace that number 10 of Eric Almirola at the end of the year.
Yeah, I think he might be the favorite, but it also depends on what kind of sponsorship money he's able to bring in as well, and if he can maybe convince Smithfield to stay with him and on that 10 car, or if maybe we might have to see Riley Herbst, take over that car if the sponsorship money is there for Herbst. So it's all going to be, once again, about sponsorships. And for Preece, I think Preece is in a good position to get that spot, but he's got to find the sponsors to do it.
And there you see side by side between AJ Allmendinger as well as the 22 of Logano. Eric Jones trying to get aggressive there. Looked like he was trying to stick his nose 3 wide up the inside. Didn't make it happen there. Thought a little bit better of it. And there still is a green flag pit stop on the way. And we're not terribly actually far away from that happening. So that could as well be a bit of a curveball here now with these guys, Jay, as it looks like they're going to probably be able to sort things out and keep it clean until that point. But we haven't had a green flag pit stop here today. And we know if they keep it clean here, they will have one of those. And that's where if you're Kyle Busch, you think about the bad luck, you know that your race could be decided by that pit crew here late in this race. And I mean, that might be playing a little bit in the back of the mind of that 18 car.
And as well, they haven't had to navigate getting on and off pit road under green flag positions, which is getting on pit road is going to be, I think, potentially a little bit sketchy because you practically have to slow down on the track and get yourself onto pit road that way. So you have to use the inside lane to do that. And you have to hope that everybody else around you notices that and does not run into the back of you. So green flag pit stops are going to be interesting for a multitude of reasons. And Eric Jones, I mean, look at him. He almost took 3 wide there for third place for AJ Allmendinger and Joey Logano. And I mean, my goodness, he has a really quick car.
It looks like there's definitely some speed in that number 43, but you know who doesn't have speed? That car right there, the 8 of Tyler Reddick, who's going to be directly in front of the leaders here of Kyle Busch, Chase Elliott as well. A little bit close right there. In the 22, they're going to split them 3 wide, and the 43 is going to get up to the back of them as they go down into turn 1, and oh my goodness, that's a bit of a hazard there, but certainly, Jay, we've seen a lot worse than that 8 car there. He looks pretty good right now compared to many others we've seen.
Yeah, and he almost pulled down on Kyle Busch and created a wreck out of that, so that was really close down the front straightaway, but obviously now blocking Kevin Harvick and Eric Almirola, slowed down the 23 and the 24, this entire group here. Now they're going to have to take it 3 wide and hope that they can navigate by him without creating a wreck, but you almost have to force yourself into this situation because he won't move out of the way, and if you don't take him 3 wide, you're going to lose just so much time sitting behind him.
And you saw Kevin Harvick, probably the biggest loser right there out of that mix now, as he still finds himself in a decent position towards the top 10. William Byron scrapping it out side by side with Bubba Wallace. Byron 9th, Bubba Wallace 8th here. Byron trying to rebound. We saw him actually pit at the end, or as soon as the caution came out. It's a little bit weird, but he is now rebounding himself. There's, speaking of rebounds, I mean, Jay, we got Martin Truex Jr., Denny Hamlin. They found themselves here in the top 10. We were talking about Toyotas and their struggles, but here we are in these closing 35 laps of this race, and all of the JGR cars remaining in this race have all found themselves running well inside this top 10.
Yeah, in Stage 2, we saw Kyle Busch really make his way forward in this race. Finished, I think, P3 in Stage 2, and then went on to immediately, or P4 actually, and then got third off pit road and went on to immediately take the lead for the start of Stage 3. And so far in Stage 3, we've also seen now Martin Truex Jr. and Denny Hamlin make up positions. So obviously they've been able to make some adjustments, find some speed, and also find a little bit of luck as well, because they've missed both incidents so far, and they're taking advantage of that and getting the positions that they want to be in at the moment. And right now they're having pretty decent runs. They're just on the tail end of this lead group here, so they still have a chance to try and to make some positions up as well, and maybe, just maybe, find their way up in the battle for the lead here.
And we saw Denny Hamlin chasing down Kevin Harvick in the closing moments last week from California, but unfortunately he came up just a little bit short there. Couldn't quite pull off the race victory at California, but here he is again having another strong run consistently from last year, and this year has been the top Toyota as well as top JGR driver here now, so we'll see if that continues this year. But Kyle Busch right now out in front. We're getting closer and closer to these green flag pit stops now, as you see Logano putting some pressure there on that 9 of Chase Elliott, and there's that 43 of Eric Jones up the inside of that number 16 right there. But Jay, noticing a trend here is it certainly seems like you can get up the inside, but almost like California, you do not want to be that car on the inside, especially on the exit of turn 2.
You can make it work when you're 3 wide because the 2 above you are having to fight so hard to not run into each other that you can just kind of scoot by on the bottom. But if you're trying to go to the bottom 2 wide, the driver to the outside of you is just going to be able to get such a huge run in that outside lane that you're not going to really be able to make anything work. And you got to have a really good car in order to make that happen. And so far, we're not seeing that from Joey Logano. He's just now going to get passed by Eric Jones, it looks like. And Kevin Harvick now trying to fight his way back inside this top 10. I think he's now moved into the lead position of the second group. I don't know if he was there before, but he certainly still has a quick car under his belt and is going to want to try and run down this lead group now all by himself. And we see Martin Truex Jr. and Denny Hamlin. They've now caught this lead group, and they're already starting to make up positions as well.
And look at William Byron. He's been on the move here. He's gotten to this pack. He's now past Denny Hamlin. It goes up the inside of Martin Truex Jr. through the center of 1 and 2. Chase Elliott side by side on the outside there with that 16 of AJ Allmendinger. And we continue to see Eric Jones to try and make a move. And Jay, we've seen Eric Jones. He's been trying to open that door, make moves, but he's been consistently stuck here in this 4th position. It seems like he just can't quite get a little bit further than that as we continue to see that 24 making moves throughout this field.
AJ Allmendinger is putting up a really good fight so far today for every position that he's been, and he has not allowed anyone to get around him so easily. And Chase Elliott found a way to get around him into 2nd place, but now he's sitting in 3rd, doing a really good job of holding off Eric Jones and William Byron now, who actually I think just moved in behind Eric Jones. Yes, he did. So you mentioned William Byron got a really quick car. Well, he's really moving forward now and found himself in 5th position and really trying to make a move on Eric Jones and AJ Allmendinger. These Chevrolets for Hendrick Motorsports, they are quick.
But it's a Toyota leading the way with Kyle Busch in the background. Truex and Hamlin, they're going to be side by side in that Bass Pro Shops 19 on the outside of that FedEx Toyota Camry. There's the exit turn 2, and Byron just kind of staying put right now in behind that 43. We know green flag pit stops are coming up very, very shortly here now, and it's just a matter of time. I mean, Jay, we saw that play a big role last week in California. Harvick was falling down the order for the first time all race long. Well, he pit before everybody else, and that put him back out in front, and he had just enough time to hang on to that race victory. So I would assume you would have to think that some of these guys maybe learn from that. I wouldn't be surprised if we see maybe say a Kyle Busch. Maybe he would like to pit earlier than everybody else to kind of guarantee himself out in front and hope that, of course, no caution comes out.
Yeah, I think you're gonna certainly be looking at short pitting again, but not yet, because we're just now under the threshold of making it to the end of this race. So I think you're going to be waiting a couple more laps before you pit, and then diving onto pit road, maybe lap 110 or so, and trying to get onto pit road before anybody else does. But if you see somebody else,
caution.
Actually, we're under caution.
Yeah, caution is out from Las Vegas. Logano, maybe Cindric as well, maybe the 10 of Eric Almirola, so that's going to bring everybody down the pit lane, and that's going to throw the field situation out the window. So now it's going to come down to who can have the best pit stop here on an even playing field now, as we, of course, have no idea what happened. I see a lot of skid marks up by the outside wall. We'll get a look here as soon as these pit stops are concluded. But wow, that means, Jay, I don't know if I'd call that a curveball, but still, nonetheless, not something we expected to see this late into a green flag run.
And it happened at the perfect time as well, because it allows these drivers to go to the end of this race and not have to worry about any kind of fuel mileage. So at least that is the good part of this caution. We won't have to see them struggle on fuel mileage and try and make a funky type pit stop towards the end of this race. But obviously, you and I have no idea what happened, but you saw the skid marks there in 3 and 4 on the high side towards the wall. I have to imagine that's where the incident occurred, because we haven't seen one happen so far today in 3 and 4. And we saw Joey Logano and Austin Cindric on pit road. I don't know if that was because they got involved in the incident or if they were coming to the pits as soon as that caution came out. We'll have to go back and find a replay of it, but looks like Kyle Busch is going to have a pretty good time on pit road here. AJ Allmendinger actually stuck a little bit behind William Byron there. He's going to lose a couple of spots, find himself down in 4th, and now Chase Elliott moves into 2nd. Eric Jones into 3rd.
And Byron, who made up all that ground, falls in behind the 23, the 19, the 16, and the 43 as well, as the caution flies from Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Let's go take a look at what has led us into the reason of this caution here from Las Vegas. Here's a look at what happened there with Austin Cindric and Eric Almirola. Almirola, Jay, I mean, just dumps the 2 into the outside wall. Up and over goes the 2, and I think just maybe a slight miscalculation from that 10 car.
Yeah, our champion last season, dumping the rookie this season of Austin Cindric and sending Cindric for a wild ride and DNFing from this race as well is Austin Cindric. And we were wondering why the 2 was on pit road. Well, there we go. And we were also wondering why Joey Logano was on pit road. Well, he was making a routine pit stop. We don't know if he fell a lap down or not. We'll have to wait and see. But if he didn't fall a lap down, that might have put him in the lead.
And there you see Kyle Busch continuing to lead the way. So Joey Logano finds himself in P3, going green this time by. So, I mean, Jay, could have been worse for that 22. He could have got trapped a lap down. But at the end of it, I'm surprised he's not leading. But nonetheless, still finds himself in a position better than what he was when he was attempting to come into the pit lane originally.
Yeah, certainly did gain a good amount of spots there for Joey Logano, and like you mentioned, I'm not sure why he's not leading, but third place certainly better than he was running. And Eric Jones found himself in fourth place now. Thought he was going to be third, but obviously hampered behind Joey Logano now. And Eric Jones, he's got a very quick car, but we're going to have to see if he's got enough to get around Logano or Chase Elliott or Kyle Busch.
Maybe not count out that 24 of William Byron. We saw some serious pace in that car, but he's got some work to do after a poor pit stop. The green flag is back out. Kyle Busch leads away with 25 laps remaining here. Now, you got to be nervous if you're Kyle Busch, knowing the bad luck you've had, stemming all the way back from last season and into the first 2 races of this season. Can he finally shake that there? And wow, Jay, what a power move there. Logano drives right on past that number 9 of Chase Elliott.
So far this race, all I've seen from Joey Logano is that he has a decent car, but it hasn't been quick enough to be extremely competitive and run up towards the front. Well, right there off this restart, he got a really good one and made the move immediately on Chase Elliott, put himself into second place, and you're seeing AJ Allmendinger as well already making the move as well to try and fight for third place here. He's got a quick car as well, as we know, and everybody being super aggressive off this restart because they know it's probably the final one we're going to have of this race, and you have to get those positions immediately. Restarts are your best time to get them, so you got to go right away here.
Truex there trying to get that inside working. William Byron, we know he's got speed, but does he have enough to get back up in there? Allmendinger looks up the inside of that number 9 of Chase Elliott, and there you see Byron now making a pass on the 43 of Eric Jones, who's starting to fall down towards the bottom half of the top 10 here. Bubba Wallace inside the top 10. Cole Custer for the first time today into the top 10 as well. Daniel Suarez finds himself currently in the 11th position. 3 wide Eric Jones as they exit turn 2, continuing to go down the order. Not what you want for Eric Jones, Jay, there. Maybe they went the wrong way on that pit stop because we are continuing to watch him quickly drop down the order.
Yeah, he hadn't been able to find himself. He's actually going to get turned. He saves it again. That's the third time that we've seen that happen this race, and a great save there by Eric Jones. But suddenly, as well, as we look a little bit further up the field, suddenly, Gary, here comes Denny Hamlin and Martin Truex Jr. They have both found some speed in their cars, and they are challenging for a top 5 result right here.
And watch out for Byron, though. He's going to look up the inside here, trying to take a 3 wide. Elliott was able to get back past Logano while we were focusing on that moment. And Logano's going to find himself going back down the order in the wrong direction. A little bit close between him as well as that number 19 of Martin Truex Jr. Kyle Busch continues to lead, but Jay, that 9 car of Chase Elliott right on that back bumper of that 18.
And the 16 has found himself back in third place as well. We know he's got a strong machine under his feet. And Chase Elliott actually making a run down the back straightaway here on Kyle Busch. Going to go to the inside. We've seen Kyle Busch pretty much dominate this third stage so far, but Chase Elliott looks like he's got a better car firing off on this restart. Kyle Busch on the outside going to try and use that run, or try and use that momentum to keep him there and maybe get him back into the lead, but it's not going to work so far early on in these restarts. And what I'm noticing is early on in the restarts, the high lane does not work at all. You really are in a bad position when you're put up there, and it takes 3 or 4 or 5 laps to get it going. And right now, Kyle Busch able to make a stand off of turn 2 and keep himself in second place, but he lost a position to Chase Elliott. Now Chase Elliott takes the lead of this race.
And there's William Byron on the exit of turn 4, bringing Denny Hamlin with them. They are very, very fast as well. That 19 of Truex fast as well, but the 11 is going to maybe catch the 24 off guard. He's going to look up the inside as they dive down into turns 1 and 2 here. And now is Byron, though, going to make that outside momentum sway in his favor and has to run down the back straightaway. He's going to take that run to the inside of the 16 of AJ Allmendinger. Stick his nose up there at the last second there, catch him a little bit off guard. And I don't know, Jay, that 24 has continued to prove he is probably the fastest car on the track at this point in time. Doesn't have the fastest lap of the race, not even in the top 10 of fastest laps of this race, but I think at the end of this race he's clearly showing that he might have the fastest car of anybody.
Yeah, and I thought for a moment that restart was really going to throw a curveball to the 24 there, and he was not going to have the same speed that he had before we had that caution. But obviously, I think I'm being proved wrong right here, and he's making a move on AJ Allmendinger. Going to have Denny Hamlin try and follow him through, and So far, William Byron actually putting up a pretty strong fight on the inside. We haven't seen that very often. Usually you can use that outside to your advantage and easily clear the person inside of you, but William Byron putting up a really good fight right now. I think he's got a pretty good car. If he's able to find his way around AJ Allmendinger, I don't think it'll be long before we see him go up here and challenge Chase Elliott and Kyle Busch, but there's a curveball being thrown at him right now with Tyler Reddick being in the way.
Oh, and Byron's going to choose the wrong spot to go, and he's going to find himself on the outside. He gets to the inside right there, but he gave up a position while doing it as they exit turn 4, and we might even have to deal with that 8 car one more time before this race comes to a close. They almost found themselves 4 wide right there as they went down into turn 1, but Jay completely forgot about that 8 car, but with the pace that's setting, I would at least expect one more time that they would have to deal with that number 8 before this race comes to a close.
Yeah, it's certainly a possibility that they run into the 8 car again, but luckily they're pretty much single file for the majority of this group here, and so I think that we'll see them be able to navigate him pretty easy there. And for William Byron, that is unfortunate for him because not only did he lose a spot, he lost track position. That is really the key of what happened to him there. He lost a lot of time on track, and it's going to have to try and run down now Denny Hamlin in front of him and try and get past him again, and also try and have to go to work at AJ Allmendinger again. But William Byron, he's got a really quick car. I just don't know if he's got enough time.
And there you see Kyle Busch continuing to put pressure on the back of that 9 of Chase Elliott. Both drivers looking for their first wins of the season to lock themselves in the playoffs. Kyle Busch winless all of last season in NR2003. Missed the playoffs. Well, he wants to change that early on in this season here in 2022. Not been the start of the season again that he's been looking for. He's wrecked in both races so far, but here he is now putting the pressure on the back of that 9 of Chase Elliott as they come through turns 3 and 4. Jay, what's it going to take from Kyle Busch? We've seen it's hard to pass. The longer the run goes on, the more likely it is that the driver in front with the clean air is going to have the advantage. So what's it going to take from Kyle Busch to maybe be able to complete this pass here with only 11 laps remaining in this race?
You might have to get a little bit aggressive and perhaps use the bumper a little bit there to Chase Elliott to move him out of the way. And certainly coming towards the end of this race, when the win is on the line here, that's not out of the question from Kyle Busch. So I think that might be the easiest way to make a move and to get around Chase Elliott. But Chase Elliott doing a great job right now defending that lead. And even though Kyle Busch is sticking with him, he's not allowing Kyle Busch to really make any moves on him. They're just kind of having to follow each other right now. And AJ Allmendinger and Denny Hamlin not falling too far off as well. So there's still 4 cars in the mix for this thing. And actually it looks like William Byron is catching them as well. But again, for Byron, I don't know if he's got enough time to make his way through both Denny Hamlin and Allmendinger to make a challenge at Kyle Busch and Chase Elliott.
You see Hamlin right there is right on the back of that 16 of Allmendinger. I think he's faster than that 16, but he's just got to try and find the right opportunity to actually get around him here now. Byron, 5th place. Logano, 6th place. He's been through a journey here today. Cole Custer finds himself up inside the top 10. Then you got Bubba Wallace, Martin Truex Jr., Daniel Suarez rounding out the top 10 here now. So, Jay, I mean, some great runs for these teams. You got Bubba, you got Suarez up here in the top 10 as well. I mean, these are going to be some really important days for them in points, especially these two teams. They've struggled in these opening weeks.
And Eric Jones right now in 11th place, holding off our strongest driver of the day so far, Kevin Harvick. But actually, Kevin Harvick goes to make the move to the inside right as I say that and challenge him for 11th place. But Eric Jones has had a pretty good run as well so far in this race. Not inside the top 10, but 11th or 12th place is certainly good for the driver of that 43 car. And it's also very good for some drivers in front of him as well, running inside the top 10 for Daniel Suarez, Bubba Wallace, like you mentioned, and Denny Hamlin. Look at this. Kyle Busch is actually falling back off of Chase Elliott's bumper a little bit. Now falling back to AJ Allmendinger and Denny Hamlin. And Hamlin still having to find a way to get around Allmendinger here. Like you mentioned, I think he is quicker, but he's just not able to find the way to get around him. And he might have his opportunity right here, actually getting to the outside of him. The outside is stronger at the moment in this run, and he is going to get the run down the back straightaway and actually be able to now find his way around AJ Allmendinger and put the challenge onto his teammate, Kyle Busch.
And Kyle Busch, he was losing time, but now he got right to the back there. But that's a big opportunity for Denny Hamlin, who was runner-up last week in California to that number 4 of Kevin Harvick. He does not want to be runner-up again. Of course, he wants to go to victory lane here today. He was up there last year with Kyle Larson as the most winningest drivers of the season. And so far, Kyle Larson, well, he doesn't have to worry about Kyle Larson here today. And it felt like back and forth all year long in 2021 and NR 2003. Hamlin would win a stage, Larson would win a stage, Hamlin would win a race, and Kyle Larson would do the same a week later. And it just kept on repeating the process. Well, at the end of the year, both of them came up short of a championship. But Jay, I mean, look at this. The 11, he's able to hang there side by side on the inside. But can he do the same thing through turns 1 and 2?
I didn't think it. Actually, Allmendinger looks like he's going to he stuck his nose in there to go 3 wide, but he thought better of it and backed out of it. I was just going to say I thought Hamlin wouldn't be able to make the move to the inside, but he's certainly holding a lot stronger than I expected him to be. But Kyle Busch just gets the run on the high side down the back straightaway there. So still holding off Denny Hamlin. I think if Hamlin's going to make a move, he's going to have to go around the outside and voluntarily go around the outside. If he just goes up there, I think he'll be able to get the run, but he's obviously wanting to try and stick to the inside here. Gets the run again off turn 4. He's got a better car than Kyle Busch. It's just Kyle Busch is using the better lane right now.
And they come through 1 and 2, and that 18 is going to have the advantage one more time. Coming to 3 laps to go. There's the 8 of Tyler Reddick. There's the 9 of Chase Elliott. It's about a straightaway difference right now with 3 laps to go at the line. Is that going to be enough time to keep Elliott in position to win this race, or will they get to that 8 car of Tyler Reddick? We're going to find out momentarily. And I mean, Jay, if you're Chase Elliott, you love what Denny Hamlin's doing right now, because you know every time he makes that move up the inside of Kyle Busch, it's slowing them down, limiting their chance to make a move on that number 9, and they do it again into turn 1.
And for Kyle Busch, if you don't want to see Chase Elliott win this race, I think your best opportunity is to have Denny Hamlin go make a run at it. But he's still trying to challenge for second place really hard. You're fighting really hard, and actually this time got a pretty good run down the back straightaway on Chase Elliott as well. So it's still not out of it. It's still definitely, I think, all 3 of these drivers right now, Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch, and Chase Elliott could win this race. It's just a matter of who is going to be at the right position at the right time. It's all going to take getting to that outside lane, and so far, looks like Kyle Busch is not going to be able to put too hard of a fight onto Chase Elliott. He's got a lot of ground to make up to get to that bumper of him and get to the outside or inside of his car.
A lap and a half to go. Down this back straightaway. Will they get to that number 8 of Tyler Reddick? He's right there as they go down into turn 3. They do not have a lot of gap between themselves and Elliott. I mean, he can't really back it down, so they come through out of turn 4, and it's going to be close, but I think they might be okay coming to the final lap. Jay, Kyle Busch's only hope is Chase Elliott runs down that 8 car, and he gets in the way.
I think the 8 car might get ran down here on the back straightaway or in turn 3. They're certainly catching him a lot faster than we thought they would. He's going to be a factor this lap right here, and Chase Elliott is going to have to get around him right away. Otherwise, Kyle Busch is going to pounce on that opportunity, and he does. Will. Chase Elliott easily slides to the inside. Now Denny Hamlin's going to try and do the same thing. All 5 of these drivers do the same thing. And Chase Elliott, I mean, what a move he put on Kyle Busch on the restart. He's going to come off turn 4 and win in Las Vegas, lock himself in the playoffs. Chase Elliott has won in the 2022 season.
Kyle Busch finishes second, Denny Hamlin third, who might be a little bit aggravated with his JGR teammate. If he could have gotten past that 18 with a little bit of ease, a little bit of help, he very well could have went and stole that win from Chase Elliott potentially here. But Chase Elliott, the first Hendrick Motorsports driver to win this season so far. Jay, we've had 3 different winners with Joey Logano, Kevin Harvick, Chase Elliott. No surprise winner so far, which is honestly a thing we kind of like to see because it keeps that playoff field as competitive as possible. And so far, we've had 3 crazy races with some curveballs thrown at us, but at the end of the day, we've been able to still have what I would call a deserving winner at the end of this race, which is really important to the playoff integrity of this series.
And the thing that I like about this race is there was a whole lot of drivers who led this race and had really good cars at different times. We didn't see just one person come out and dominate the entire thing. We had Kevin Harvick lead a lot of laps, Kyle Busch lead a lot of laps, Chase Elliott led a lot of laps. We also had Ryan Blaney lead a lot of them as well and win stage 2. So there was a whole lot of things happening in this race. And just once again, a really exciting start, I think, to our 2022 season. Hopefully it's the same way tomorrow for the real race, for the real Cup race. But so far for our season, like you said as well, 3 deserving winners every time. I thought early on that AJ Allmendinger was going to have a car that could win this race. Obviously, it was good enough to stay competitive and be with the leaders, but never good enough to really lead a lot of laps. But a really good finish for him there in 4th place. And also, again, we have some drivers still struggling throughout the season as well, involved in more incidents again today.
Absolutely. There you see Kevin Harvick rounds out the top 10. Bubba Wallace with the top 10. Suarez 11th. Jones 12th. Busher 13th. Todd Gilliland with a nice run there in the top 15. Greg Biffle, Landon Castle find themselves having top 20 finishes, and Noah Gragson as well in that number 62 car. Eric Almirola scored 21st, the last driver on the lead lap there. Now you see Tyler Reddick down in 25th. Not the day he was looking for after picking up some damage, a part of some accidents there. We know he had speed today. He's had speed all season long, just didn't pan out for him. Kyle Larson 28th with a DNF there. Now is some big names with Cindric, Larson, Bowman as well, Ryan Blaney, Keselowski, Kurt Busch, Christopher Bell, Dylan Chastain, Stenos. They all end up out of this race. But Jay, we've had a different form of racetrack here all season long. We had the super speedway, we had the 2-mile oval, we had the 1.5-mile track here today, and next week we head to quote unquote short track at Phoenix Raceway, but we'll at least be on a completely different form of racing once again. And that in itself, we've seen some of those races here in NR2003 so far. that could go either way as well. They have the potential for a lot of chaos, especially when we see all of the AI cutting through that dogleg on these restarts. It's going to be quite chaotic, especially on that original opening start.
And then also after that, we head to Atlanta for the brand new surface of that track, brand new banking. Not entirely sure what to expect other than maybe a plate race at that track. And then after that, we head to a road course at Coda. So this schedule so far early on in the season has got a whole lot of differing tracks, and we're not really seeing any repeating tracks for the first 7 or 8 races. I mean, after that, then we go to our first official short track in Richmond, and then Martinsville after that. So this schedule early on has a lot of potential for a lot of chaos to happen. I mean, I look to next week, like you said, at Phoenix, them using that dog leg. We've seen them restarts get really crazy there at Phoenix on NR, and then Atlanta. We have no idea what to expect for that track. So I'm really looking forward to what we have for the rest of the season. And we also, so far, have not seen one driver be dominant yet, and hopefully that continues for the rest of the year.
Absolutely. And as always, if you guys enjoyed, you know what to do. We'd like to thank you all for taking the time out of your day to watch here from Las Vegas. We'll see if Chase Elliott wins IRL tomorrow and how close we were to predicting the real life events from Las Vegas Motor Speedway. We got the Larson and Elliott beef correct last week here, but nonetheless, we hope you guys enjoy the race this weekend. Some crazy crashes, some crazy curveballs thrown at us in this race, and it turns out with Chase Elliott holding off Kyle Busch in the closing laps to win, and a much needed good race for Kyle Busch here in this third race of the season. That does it for us here from Las Vegas Motor Speedway, though. We will see you guys in the next episode next week from Phoenix Raceway. Thanks for watching, and have yourselves a great day.